Welcome, residents. I'd like to call this ordinance committee meeting to order Wednesday, March 30th at 6 p.m. From council, we have myself, our council president, Laura DePledge, representing Ward 2, John Myers, representing Ward 3 is Jason Kusunik, and another at-large is Mr. Kimberly Evers. From the administration, we have Mayor Morley and our service director, Nick Rutino. We have one item on the agenda this evening, and it's to discuss deer culling. This information is an information meeting only. Nothing will be acted on tonight, and everything will be held in committee. And at this time, I will turn it over to Mayor Morley.
Thanks, and thanks for everyone coming out. We were a little miffed on, usually when everything goes like this at the beginning of the month, everyone forgets about the meetings, but probably most of you that contact me by email, phone. Mr. Vogler and I have been going back and forth for the last 7-8 months on a program with the deer that he has in his area, in the Surfside area, and all the other deer issues that we have. One of the facts from our end, I had the police chief look at the accidents in the city. We are at 174 accidents since 2010. Most of the problems that we get from all the residents that call myself and the council people are mostly the nuisance about the vegetation being in the flowers. So this is the very beginning of the meeting because we don't know, as I've told Mr. Vogler in the past, we're going to have people for it and we're going to have people against it. So we wanted to see what our residents want, the route they want us to go, and presentation needs to make the city council because the city council they have to pass an ordinance allowing what Mr. Vogler is going to present tonight in his PowerPoint. In November, and this is what we've done with our homework, there were 6 other cities that went to the ballot. On this issue, we do not have to go to the ballot. Council can just enact ordinance. But again, what we're going to try to do is this is the first meeting on many. If it would move forward after this, the council decides this is something that we want to do, we'll get with our law director. Mr. Vogler is meeting with our police chief next week because one of the things in all these ordinances is that the police chief is in charge of this. As most of you know, our force is not the way it used to be, so it's one more thing I want to get the chief to do. So Mr. Vogler's credentials will show that the chief may be able to appoint him if we're going to move forward on this. So I'll open up and Mr. Vogler can do his presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for your time and efforts. I have high hopes that perhaps this information you'll find that my efforts and my research is worthy of your time. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm a resident of the city of Eastlake. My name is Todd Vogler. I'm a resident of the city of Eastlake for 18 years. I've been married for 18 years. My wife and I have known each other for about 29 years, 28 years. I attended Tri-State, Ohio State University, and East Western Reserve University. I have a degree in criminal justice, emphasis in prosecution. My minor is in psychology. I have one child who attends the Little Eastlake school system. She's on the honor roll. She's very active in sports, and she's quite the handful. I'm employed as a federal police officer. I'm currently employed here in Cleveland, Ohio. My duties and responsibilities include, but are not limited to, I'm a narcotics investigator. I'm also a training officer for the federal government, and I'm also a member of the National Emergency Response Team. My hobbies include teaching. I'm a firearms instructor, motorcycling, gardening, fishing, and hunting. This is the only lie on the entire PowerPoint. I say I'm a gardener. I keep trying, and that's an endeavor. I really have a food plot for the beer, is really what it is. Areas that I teach is CPR, handcuffing, chemical irritants. That's what many of you would call pepper spray. Defensive impact weapons, those are telescoping batons that police officers use. Firearms, rape, aggression, and defense. That's a self-defense course designed to develop and enhance options of self-defense so it becomes a more viable consideration for a woman who's attacked. Active threat response, which is really the government's way of saying SWAT. We can't use the word SWAT, but that's actually very strict standards what that is. And I'm a master instructor for the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. What that means is that if you hunt in the state of Ohio, you have to go to a hunter safety course. If you trap in the state of Ohio, you have to go to a trapper safety course. A master instructor is somebody who's authorized to teach both. Not very common. Most guys are either a hunter safety course instructor or a trapper safety. I have to do both. I'm also a member of the Fraternal Order of Police, life member, endowment member of the NRA, and I'm a 32nd degree Scottish and New York Great Freemasons in Ohio. Now, health and deer population in Ohio. Also, I must ask, you keep all these so kind some may pop up, but I suspect I'll probably answer 95% of them are. Healthy deer population of Ohio hinges on proper healthy interaction between humans and wildlife. You have to appreciate and understand the fact the deer are not invading our space. We're invading theirs. This is something you have to understand. Conservation of the herd, trophy levels, natural indigenous species, natural resources, carrying capacity of environmental, this renewable resource. I'm going over some of these terms and definitions now because I'm going to be using them throughout the PowerPoint. I want to make sure we're on the same vocabulary. Renewable resource is like a tree. A lifespan of a tree starts as sapling, grows to a full-grown, mature oak. It dies. Everything dies naturally. Grass dies, tree dies, even entire plants die. And it falls over and it dies. Is that a good use of that renewable resource? No, it's not. The best use of that renewable resource is the sapling plants. It grows to mature oak. It spawns itself. You cut down the tree, use it to build a house, and you use the natural sapling, this natural second order. A non-renewable resource like coal or oil are finite. So we have to be a little more cautious with how we use those resources. Deer are a natural resource. They naturally reproduce on their own. And we just have to manage it properly. Proper management with respects to the habitat limiting factor. A limiting factor is the environment itself. Diseases, bad weather, poor habitat will limit what a deer naturally can reproduce. This little wily guy right here is a wily coyote. He is one of the nemesis in the state of Ohio. Ohio actually has no closed season on the coyote, and this is part of the greater picture. I'm trying to paint a greater picture of how we are interacting with nature. The natural indigenous species, we've eradicated a lot of them. Coyotes, bobcats, black bear, wolves. Coyotes are still here. Black bear we're actually trying to bring back, believe it or not. There's about 100 to 150 black bears in the state of Ohio. There's about a couple dozen that actually have taken up residence in this state. Normally what happens is they go from Pennsylvania to West Virginia, their normal migration pattern, and they usually swing by our beehives and these out of our trash cans and hang out a little bit. Some of them take up residence. But most of them just transit through. We've managed to eradicate a lot of them. The coyotes are here because the food source is here. And we've eradicated the natural predator of the deer. So naturally, the deer source is out of control without something to keep it in check. If you don't take a proactive stance to handling the herd in some type of method, Mother Nature will. She normally does it with disease. If you look at humans, for example, from AIDS to Ebola to, I'm telling you, the next flu pandemic, we in the federal government are very concerned about that. Mother Nature has a way of doing this. So, the coyotes. It's one of the very few animals that are can track without restrictions in Ohio because we want them eradicated. Why do we want them eradicated? Well, you may not see it because you live in the city, but if you go from Cleveland to Columbus or Columbus to Cincinnati, you'll see nothing but corn. Ohio's an agricultural state, very much so. And if you're a farmer and you have corn, you naturally have cattle. You have a food source for your own herd. That's where the profit margin. Well, the coyote takes down your cattle, so if you're a farmer, you keep a rifle in your combine. When you see that coyote, you plug it. And you don't even harvest it. You want the other coyotes to see it. You want to tell this message to coyotes, don't come near here. So that's a problem. The coyotes are pretty crafty devils, let me tell you. They're pretty smart. So that's a problem. And they're here in Eastlake. I've had one neighbor who, I woke up in the morning and Frank was going crazy. He's throwing daddy the furniture. Later I found out coyotes came out from the woods and were trying to take down his dog. And he was throwing daddy the furniture. He had to take the dog to the vet, repaired as best as he could. It definitely negatively impacted the life of his pet. But the coyotes are here. Why? The food source is here. So how does this affect Eastlake? Well, this is a bear that I've seen last year. This is the famous jacket common bear. Now, I don't want to cause any alarm. I highly doubt you're going to see any bear climbing up and down Vine Street. Okay? But it gives you an idea. This was the famous jacket bear that I interacted with just last year. He's out there. He's about a 2-year-old, about 200 pounds. So he's got a couple pounds to go. They go to about 400 pounds, give or take. Okay. So do we have a deer population in Eastlake? There's only one or two problems. One or two solutions. Yes or no? So I know one of my neighbors that just spent over $3,000 in that bought means had enough. To give that perspective, the average white-tailed deer, mule deer, which are in Ohio, mule deer a little bit more, the average white-tailed deer consumes about 6 pounds of lettuce per deer per day, which is about 2,200 pounds of vegetation a year. So if you live anywhere near Surfside or anywhere near the Eastlake Gardens, you cannot have hostas, you cannot have roses. It doesn't happen unless you put forth sincere effort of doing something to protect that body. 2 years ago, 1 street away, believe it or not, I actually had one resident approach me, one of my neighbors, and said, Todd, how do I get a silencer? And I'm like, jeez. I lied to him. I said, you can't get silencers. I lied because I don't want you going in the back porch plugging in here with a silencer. So I lied to him because you legally can in Ohio, but I didn't want to tell him that. 2 years ago, 1 street away, there was a deer that popped up in the neighbor's yard with an arrow sticking out of it. I want you to think about that for a second. What that means, from a hunter's perspective, because I do a lot of deer hunting, from a hunter's perspective, if you take something out of Mother Nature and you don't use it all, right there, that's a sin. Through and through. So if you have somebody who's plugged a deer with an arrow and just let it fall, that tells me that his or her frustration is such a degree that he's willing to just kill it. That's a problem. That puts things in perspective. Last year I received a phone call from my cousin who's an officer in my apartment. His wife called me. He lives also in Eastlake. She saw a deer with an arrow sticking out of its chest at 91 of the Lakeshore. I called Eastlake police. They tried to dispatch with negative results. I ended up creating a case for ODNR because I told dispatcher, listen, that deer's going to pop up somewhere, probably on someone's front lawn. When that happens, let me know. I'll go pick up the animal and I'll go ahead and donate it for you. They called me later and said, we found the deer. It's the arrow sticking out of the chest. It's west of 91 on Lakeshore. I went there. Same arrow pattern on the arrow. But if you look at the trajectory, it was level with the ground, which means that somebody was shooting from ground level. It was about an hour and a half long investigation to figure out where the guy was poaching from. Called Eastlake police. They wrapped up the bow, gave it ODNR, and they pursued criminal prosecution. So you're looking at multiple hunters within the city, violating city ordinance and violating state law. This is how frustrated some of these residents are getting. Personally, I tracked deer from the Willoughby Resort Park through the Eastlake Gardens all the way to the Willoughby's Airport and the golf course, thinking this is probably a 200-pounder, and I wanted to see that. But 250 pounder. By the time I caught up to him, he was every bit of 300. And the part that was interesting is that when I finally caught up to him, now he saw me long. I'm in his environment. He saw me long before I saw him. And when I finally caught up to him, I almost bumped him back on 115 yards away. And he had absolutely no fear of me. That needs to register with him. There's a natural, instinctual caution. The deer, because they're prey for so many predators, it's there naturally. And if that animal is not concerned about someone tracking him, that's domesticated. That's a problem. Okay. Eastlake Police has documented over 170 versus car deer accidents since 2010. That may not seem like an unreasonable number to ODNR. It may not seem unreasonable to you and me, unless, of course, you're one of those 170 that got to pay that accident claim. And let's not forget that all of us are rates go up. In fact, ODNR has listed Ohio as a high-risk state. Excuse me, not ODNR. The 3 primary insurance carriers for Ohio coverage has listed as a high-risk state. I have a quarter-acre lot, whopping big quarter-acre plot there over our house floor, and these are pictures of deer that have come through. My daughter, in fact, once counted 9 deer bedding down my backyard. She counted those deer as I was coming home from hunting, didn't see anything all day long, because I was up in a tree stand for 8.5 hours, and it's 20 degrees out. I come home, they mock me. Right? You can't win. All right. So this little tiger right there, right-hand side, is what we call a tick. There are health concerns with these quadrupeds. There are health concerns that will affect us. Continued lack of addressing this issue will most likely increase property damage. You're looking at more car versus deer accidents. Negative impact. What that means is that deer are naturally migration. They move around a lot. They browse a lot. They sample wildlife a lot. and when that one species grows out of control, it can actually hurt the other wildlife in the area. A lot of waterfowl use tall grass for bedding. So when the deer are tearing up the tall grass, because they're bedding down and they're getting out of control, it hurts the other indigenous species. So this is an issue for us. Health concerns. I have one neighbor who told me about how his grandkids saw brown marbles in the backyard. Well, those weren't brown marbles, right? And I'm sure his first thought was, kids go wash your hands. Black-leg disease, also known as deer ticks, carry numerous of diseases for cattle, sheep, and horses. And let's not forget about the horse farm in Eastlake. They're also implicated in Lyme disease for humans, and that's a vicious, terrible disease for humans to get. And let's not forget those ticks are probably going to negatively affect our own pets, because the deer hop fences like they're not even there. And you can't tell me those ticks aren't getting on our own pets, our own dogs. So how do we negotiate this issue? There's a couple ways to negotiate this issue. One is to go out in the state of Ohio. I don't think you can really make that a lot of help out in the state of Ohio. The state of Ohio likes deer. Why do we like deer? We make a lot of money out of it. It wasn't that long ago they did a survey and they found out in one season, the state of Ohio made $5.2 million in 1 year out-of-state hunters. This is the first state you come to, head westbound, that you have large game. So if you're from New Hampshire, New Jersey, Massachusetts, you want to go on a road trip, want to go deer hunting, you and 3 other guys pop in the back of a pickup truck, you head out to Ohio, you get a room, you gotta get out to state permits, okay, you gotta go out to dinner at Olive Garden, Joe got a deer, it's a bottle of bourbon, it's a big to-do, before you leave, you get a can of chewing tobacco, you fill up your pickup truck, that adds up, ching, 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 ching. So the state of Ohio enjoys deer, and they get a lot of money off it. I suppose you could rely on the county number. I can't really picture the county sheriff getting together a SWAT team anytime soon and say, let's go county-wide. Although the Metro Parks has discussed it, there's been some chatter, but there's been no real affirmative action. So this relies upon the local government. Linders, Kirkland, Metro Parks, Mentor, North Road, and Brockton, Farmer, Sentinel, Struggle, and all pursue this idea. This is a viable option. It makes sense. So, it makes it, for the state of Ohio, it's dollars, in a sense. Now, how do we negotiate this? Well, last would suggest we have a couple different ways to go about it. One, we can allow a controlled hunt, not a culling, a controlled hunt. There's a difference. Culling takes about a year's worth of study by a biologist. Will cost you probably around $50,000 to $75,000. The biologist puts together a report, it's sent down to the state of Ohio, Columbus, there's one individual who makes the decision, and his decision is final, and he determines whether or not you do a culling. This is what Mentor did. Initially, now they have a controlled hunt. So that's one option. Another idea is that you have to pass warrants, you have to do something. You have to pass warrants and tell these citizens, these residents, stop feeding the deer. I have a neighbor across the street. I'm dying out on my neighbor. I have a neighbor across the street, a couple doors down, and she's throwing Twinkies out for the deer. You're not helping them by doing that. You're interfering with their natural cycle. You're interfering with their natural food source. It's not beneficial for the wildlife. You gotta stop eating the wildcat, the stray cats. You gotta stop eating the deer. It's not beneficial for our objective. You can encourage residents to plant botany-resistant, deer botany that's resistant to them. Right now, more than one person has done that, and it's not been productive. Why? The deer are hungry. It doesn't matter if you plant deer-resistant botany or not. If you're hungry, you will eat meat with maggots in it. If you're hungry enough. They're hungry enough. So this is one way to help curb it. And you can install the deer deter systems in the high collision areas. This is relatively new technology. It goes on a spike, it goes along the side of the road, solar power, and when the cars go by, they start blinking blue lights and make a sound to help traffic go through that roadway. Blue light because deer see in shades of blue, so that just was like neon to a deer. It's new technology. I don't know if it's really the studies have shown to be that successful or not. But since it's new technology, making things new at first is usually pricey. And another option is you permit the police department to start controlled kills. Now, Mentor spent over $100,000 on that. And they show serious numbers numbers of kills that are not chump change. Of course, to me, there's a $100,000 bill. That's not chump change either. And I would argue that if this city council spent $100,000 on killing deer versus buying a couple more plow trucks, I might take issue with that. But $100,000, I mean, that's a lot of money. All right. So, how does this change our city? Changes to the police department. Eastlake Police is already overworked. They're working on an absolute budget. They're doing the best job they can. So you're asking them to take on yet another task. Okay. I suspect and I theorize at first this will be a challenge for them. But you got to be thinking long term with this type of issue. I've asked more than one minor police officer, what do you guys think of it? And they still think it's a pain, but they're not going to nearly the number of car versus deer accidents. They've never had this low of car versus deer accidents in over 13 years. So would you rather have an officer spend an hour to 3 hours, maybe even 4 to be honest with you, filling out OH1, car accident report? By the time you have to clean up, wait for the tows, he goes to the hospital, go to the hospital, get stayed, and then do the big work, that could eat up half your shift. And I'm telling you, would you rather have an officer spend 3 hours, an hour to 3 hours on that, or somebody complaining about, suppose you have somebody who complains about a deer hunter, it's going to take 5 to 60 minutes. In time, I suspect we're going to show profit. It might take us a couple of years to get there, but I suspect in time it will be beneficial for us. Fire department, they'll probably be happy. They don't have to go to the car versus deer accidents. Street department, I suspect they'll be happy because they don't have to clean up the mess and they don't have to repair damages from the collisions. So, what does this mean? Well, if you take a look at there, 2012 to 2015, the first number in that ratio is deer harvested by hunters. The second number is from the police department. So 2012, you had 131 deer. I myself am responsible for 9 of those. And I'm letting you know, the first year that I was out there, I could have gone after running a 5K, doing jumping jacks, and I still could pick and shoot which deer I wanted. Last year, 2015, I was responsible for 3 of those 74. I myself went through 5,500 pounds of corn. And I was dialed in. And someone had to go to the farm and buy that corn. Someone had to go out in the woods and carry that corn out. And the deer were sparse. And if you were up in a tree stand and you breathed wrong, the deer were out of it. Because we're left with the smart ones, and we're left with the ones that they understand what this is all about, and there are not as many deer out there. So those are significant number of decreases, even with the police department, and they're using rifles with scopes on them. And you look at those numbers, in 2012, they had 212 harvested, down to 2015, they had 167. And I'm a bow hunter, I'm letting you know, I cannot compete with a rifle dialed in scope with a sniper can. I just can't. And even their numbers are low. So it shows you that this effort that is put forth by our next door neighbor has been very successful to their endeavor. Okay, so we move out. My suggestion is that we mimic Minner's program. They did all the research, they spent all the money, it's showing positive results. But I would also suggest we take this opportunity to increase and modify, maybe massage some things to our benefit. These are a couple that I would suggest. One is permit number. Having the city generate a permit number, put it on a piece of paper. The hunter is responsible to laminate it and put it on the stand. Have it fixed right to the stand. That's your permit number. It's your stand. This also prevents that stand from being moved around a little bit. We'll get to that. I'll explain that in a moment. GPS coordinates right on the permit. Nowadays, you can get GPS on your phone. So if this is where you want to put your stand, and you got somebody's landlord's permission to hunt on the land, you want to put your stand, GPS coordinates right there. A list of, here, put a hunter's tape, also known as trail marker tape. Put that right around the tree. So when you have the police chief or his designee inspect that stand and make sure it's in compliance, that we can readily find the tree that stands affixed to. Here's a crazy idea. I think we're going to have a lot of hunters that want to get down on this. I think you're going to have a lot of hunters that live in the city. The first year in winter, when I harvested 9 deer, if I had red meat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I could not eat 9 deer. It just can't be done. I donated 4 deer that year in homeless shelters. Here's an idea. Why don't we have something available here in Eastlake, where if you're an Eastlake resident and you want some venison, why not provide it for our own citizens? I think it's a good idea. Now, suppose I get a deer, I want to donate it. Somebody says, yeah, I want a deer. That person who I donate my deer to has to pay for the butchery. I'm not going to pay for the butchery. But give them a list of local butchers that take donations. Give them a local list of local butchers that provide meat to churches and charities. Ladder stands only. I'll get into what the ladder stands are. And safety harnesses being required. When we start teaching hunter safety courses, I asked somebody in the very first class I taught, I said, how many here wear safety harnesses? 3 people raised their hands. In the last class I taught, I said, how many here wear safety harnesses? 3 people didn't raise their hands. If you're a hunter, you spend hundreds of dollars just on my Harley, spend hundreds of dollars on what's a safety harness. Well, I think it's important to have it in the ordinance, because what you do is you're reinforcing with the hunter we care about their safety too. And you have a program like this, where we're shooting off arrows inside city limits, and some of these bows will push arrows pretty slick. It's got to revolve around safety. So it's reinstill that with our hunter that wants to hunt in this city. Say, listen, it's got to revolve around safety, no ifs, ands, or buts, including your own. I think that's an important protocol. This is an example of a ladder stand left. No homemade ladder stands. I don't want some guy out there, and I'm sure nobody else wants anyone out there with a bunch of 2x4s. They don't take it down at the end of the season. The 2x4s stuck there and they rot. And next thing you know, you got some 12-year-old climbing up in the middle of summer. I don't want that. No climber stands. What a climber stand is, it attaches to the tree and kind of inchworm your way up. The problem with that is that if you're going to have a tree that's designated, was approved by the police chief or his designee, and the direction that the stand is facing, approved by the police chief or his designee, to go in a certain direction so all arrows fly away from residential houses. The problem with the climber stand is they're highly mobile. So if we have a ladder stand, such as the ladder stand on the far right, it's the closest thing you have to a permanently fixed structure that's not mobile. Safety harnesses, they come in all shapes and sizes. They're relatively inexpensive. And as a hunter safety, I can't stress it enough. To me, it's right up there with wearing a seatbelt. Why somebody would climb 10, 15, 20, I go around 20, 22 feet off the ground without a seatbelt. To me, it's just boggles. I've never figured it out. So I think those are some of the things that we need to look at. So some of the safety or regulations that I would suggest, I'm going to start with this top left-hand corner, working clockwise. Shocking, a hunter has to have a hunting license in the state of Ohio. No way around. A hunter can only use a bow, a long bow, crossbow, or a compound bow, and that's it. Bows are so much safer than firearms. I can't give you the number of reasons why. But we'll go for just one for fun. Let's suppose you get target acquisition, you discharge a firearm. Let's suppose the firearm goes through, the projectile goes through the deer, goes through 6 inches of dirt, hits a rock, ricochets, you have no idea where it went. An arrow, you get target acquisition, you discharge it, goes through the deer, goes through 6 inches of dirt, hits a rock. Arrow does only one of 2 things. 1, it bends, 2, it shatters. But it's a done deal. It's over with. So we have ladder stands, you have archery, it makes much more sense. The hunter has to have on his or her possession at all times a photo ID, the hunting, the state of Ohio license, and the Eastlake permit number, and a working cell phone. Must have a working cell phone. I'll be back to the reason as to why in just a moment. Okay. To get a successful permit in the city, the hunter's going to have to go to an archery range and get a proficiency exam. What that means is that usually what happens is you walk into walk to the archery range, you sit down, you can take 6 arrows, you bring your quiver of 12 arrows, the range master, I imagine goes so far as they pick up the 6. They sit down, they give you a Coke. You wait 30 minutes, and they want to see 6 arrows in a 6-inch circle at 20 yards. So you got to shoot cold, you can't warm up. This makes sense, right? Because you're going to get to a tree stand, you're not warming up. And you want to make sure that hunter has a level of target acquisition, the target proficiency, that you're not going to have problems, right? Okay. Moving forward, the hunter agrees to hunt in the designated area only. The parking permit, we get like a, say, 8.5 by 11 piece of colored paper, we'll change the color of the piece of paper each year. So we can really identify what year he's hunting, what permit number he has. Say a third piece of paper is his permit number. The other third will have his permit number, and that will be your parking permit. So if you park on a city street and somebody calls and says, hey, this car's been on my street all week long or all day long, I think it's kind of odd. The police officer goes out there, he sees the permit right there, he knows what the car is there for. Let's suppose that the officer wants to talk to the hunter for some reason. There is no reason that we should ever send our officers out in the middle of the woods. So if we have some kind of cross-reference sheet of the permit number with the hunter's name, his address, maybe her phone number, you can call the hunter and have them come out to the officer. Hence the reason we got to work in cell phone. Let's have it work for our officers. Let's not put our officers in a position of disadvantage. Let's put them in a position of advantage. You got to comply with follow all the rules and regulations of the state of Ohio. 18 years old, of age or older. My daughter's 14 years old. She's taken out more than 1 year. She's passed on more than 1 year. She's a mature hunter. She's made decisions. And I've asked her before, why didn't you harvest that? And she's come straight up that I don't think it was a safe shot. I disagree, but I'm not going to counter that thought process with her. I don't want anyone out there that's not mature enough to understand that you're there to work with nature. You're not out there to harm Mother Nature, you're out there to harvest. And so adults won't. This will also aid in our, if somebody's playing games out there, we prosecute. Okay, the hunter, this is the kind of a trick to this. Antlerless deer before an antler deer. And the reason why that I suggest that is simple as this. Everybody learned from the metro parks. When the metro parks had these controlled hunts, they had these hunters just lining up to go out in the woods. Because they wanted to go get your vision. Alright. You want to come to the city, you want to go get your crazy buck, go ahead. But we want to doe first. That way you control the herd. Because the doe each year produces sometimes 1, sometimes 3, but most does create 2 offspring. This is how you diminish the number of deer. You got to get a doe first. This makes more sense. So if you want to go to a mass go crazy, knock yourself out, but you're part of a culling program. You're part of a controlled hunt program. So this is we're trying to develop a mutually beneficial relationship between the hunter and the city. So if the hunter wants to come in here, that's fine, but the objective is a controlled hunt. Doe first. The hunter agrees to conduct himself in the responsible manner. In other words, the property owner says, hey, there's some additional safeties I want to put in place. That hunter has to agree with. 100 feet, top of the cane quarter, once again working clockwise. Top of the cane quarter, working clockwise. The hunter has to be 100 feet within the property line. Why is that? Well, let's suppose you have 3 parcels of property. You have over 3 acres of land that's deemed suitable for hunting. You're on the property. If you're 100 feet within the property line and you get target acquisition on quadruped, you get target acquisition on here, and you discharge the arrow, you want to give enough room for that deer to fall on the land that you have permission to be on. We don't want the deer to stroll on somebody's land who is not for the program, doesn't want to be offended. We're not here to be bad neighbors. We're here to try to solve the problem. So 100 feet in. Additionally, it's a safety feature. Arrow, when you're at least 10 feet, 8 feet off the ground, if that were able, you might go 15, maybe 20 yards. So 100 feet is more than enough of a buffer to prevent that arrow from traveling to some place you didn't want it to go. Okay, hunter agrees to acknowledge forms submitted by Eastlake. Okay. Immediately remove carcass. Once you harvest the animal, you don't have it sitting on somebody's land for 2-3 days. You got to get that carcass off the land. The hunter and the property owner review the property boundaries together. So there's no excuse for the hunter not knowing where he's allowed to be. The hunter agrees to place something you want the bottom left-hand corner is where we're at, the top place again. You want to put a tree stand up, you want to put a feeder out. Hunters should be exempted from the no feeding ordinance. That's the big. You want to put a tree stand up, and you want to put a feeder out. You want to put it out 2 weeks prior to the season. That's acceptable. That's considered standard in the state of Ohio. But you have to have it also taken down 2 weeks after the season. We don't want to stand even up on somebody's personal property. We don't want a tree stand to be up all year long. Okay. You might get into a little bit of a tussle. I don't know if you can legally tell somebody. I'm not sure if you even can. If I'm playing on your lane and I say, hey, can I leave my stand up all year long? And you say yes. I'm not sure if the city or even the state of Ohio can say you have to take it down. I mean, I'm not sure if you can tell somebody what they can do with their own property. But we're going to hit the board just because you don't want to eyesore. And most hunters, I think they're not going to have a problem with that. The hunters are used from the tree stand at least 8 feet off the ground. This makes all arrows in the downward trajectory. Safety, safety, safety. The harvested deer must be reported to the city within 24 hours. Why? You go up to the police department, fill out a form. They put it on some clipboard somewhere. Every week or so, you pull those forms, try to get some numbers to see if we're showing any kind of progress in our endeavors. The hunter should immediately notify if there's a wounded deer. Why? Well, we want to know. For 2 reasons. One, you got a deer's rolling around that's wounded. I think it's only responsible we want to know. Second of all, if this happens, if this happens a couple times with the same hunter, I want to ask that hunter, you got certified. Well, what's going on? Are you taking irresponsible shots? I mean, if it happens a couple times, I think it's only reasonable to ask that hunter what he can do. The permit number that we issue has to have every piece of equipment that hunter's out there with, specifically his arrows. If a hunter wants to hunt in the city, she's got to have her hunting permit number on every one of those arrows for 2 reasons. One, the deer is shot and goes farther than the hunter can track. The hunter's not allowed to leave property that he has permission on. So a hunter's tracking it, and that deer goes off, and she can't track that deer anymore. And she goes down a public access roadway without hunting. That's part of the rules too. She walks down, she can't find it. Okay, I can't find the deer. She calls Eastlake police. There's a wounded deer somewhere. Well, let me tell you what, that deer's going to turn up somewhere. And when that deer turns up, and there's a permit number on that arrow, it gives the city the opportunity to call that hunter and say, listen, come get your deer. I was truly impressed of just how many deer the city of Winter has recovered from people calling it in. So that way we can get the deer back to the hunter, then that animal is not wasted. It's not about killing the deer, it's about harvesting. And no hunter wants to waste the product. Okay, keep the ball in our court. The chief of police reserves at any time to void out the permit, any time the city sees fit, if he believes it's not in the city's best interest, for whatever reason. Looking at foreign property available for a portion thereof hunting is deemed determines the best interest of the public, and the city determines the number of hunters allowed on a piece of property. Let's suppose you have a parcel of property. You have 5 contiguous properties, totaling at least 3 acres. What's reasonable? Is a 100 reasonable? I think so. How about 2? Probably. If it's a heavily wooded lot, suppose you have half a dozen. Is that reasonable? Maybe push it a little bit. If you have 4, and you make sure all the hunters have the phone numbers of each other, I don't think that's unreasonable. So what do we have to do? We have to determine that piece of property is considered reasonable. I think we have 3 acres, up to 5 parcels of property that are in conjunction with one another. We have 3 acres of property. It has to be reasonable for hunting. What does that mean? It means that if 2 acres is the Walmart parking lot and 1 acre is a wooded lot, no, that's not reasonable. So it has to be a wooded lot. So, representative designee reserves the right at any point in time to go on the petition's property. The property owner and the hunter agree that at any point in time, a designee can walk up there and check the equipment. The hunter, wounded deer, this is where I said the hunter can walk and try to follow the deer if it's on, if he or she's on a public roadway. But we don't want somebody walking down the Shore Boulevard carrying a crossbow. So that has to be part of it. What we're looking for is somebody like this. Somebody who's carrying a bow, he's in a tree stand, he's got a safety harness, can't really tell what's there, and it's a downward trajectory. That, by the way, is a compound bow. So that's pretty much what we're looking for. What we're looking for is somebody who understands this. Every hunting class I've ever taught, every book I've ever read about it, every class I've attended, somewhere in there is this quote. Basically, this is it. Football, softball, baseball, water polo. You have an umpire. You have somebody telling you what you did was right or wrong. We need somebody who understands, we're looking for the hunter who understands that you are your own referee. and you have to conduct yourself to very high ethical standards, that's what we're looking for. So there's a lot of rules, a lot of regulations. Those rules and regulations are cumbersome. What we're trying to do is make sure the person who is not willing to conduct themselves ethically doesn't submit the application. That's what we're looking for. Simple as that. Somebody who is an ethical hunter isn't going to have a problem with any of these rules I've put forward. So, you look at the city of Eastlake, where to hunt? Well, that's the full picture of the city of Eastlake. On the left, on the right, is Eastlake Gardens. That's all public property. Believe it or not, that's almost 40 acres. You can fit a lot of hunters in there. So that's the ideal. There are a couple pieces of parcels of private property that are good chunks of land, more than one, especially by the marina level. So, private property, I would suggest at least 5, no more than 5 parcels of property that are contiguous. That means they touch each other. And no less than 3 acres, and that the city deems suitable for hunting. That would be my suggestion. So how do we measure these endeavors? We pursue this. It's without hiring a biologist. These are a couple ideas that came up with. Reach out, crazy idea now. Let's reach out to our own taxpayers, our own citizens that are complaining. Try to have them participate. These people pay a lot of money to live in this city. So my suggestion was reach out to them and say, listen, you complain about it, we'd like to have you use a set of eyes for us. I think you might be surprised at how many citizens will step up and say, I'm more than happy to help out. So you also can buy in from them. Reach out to the ones that live near known deer trails. There are more than one known deer trail in this city. And ask those people, do you see less deer? Another idea is throw some cameras, trail cameras, along with deer trails and take a count. Are we seeing less deer? You can also look at the number of carp versus deer estimates. Those have diminished. So, in conclusion, I think that we can have a controlled hunt in the city, but it has to be done with safety in mind. We have to keep in mind that the property damages are concerned. The health of the herd is also our concern. The shooting in, and eventually, there's going to be a problem if we don't take some type of proactive stance to manage our own wildlife. Any questions?
What's the time frame of this proposed hunt?
It would run concurrent with the state of Ohio's hunting season, which takes place in November. Last year it ended February 7th at 5:02 p.m. But it goes to continuous. In Ohio, you have, throughout the whole season, you have bow hunting. In the beginning, you have youth hunt, which we wouldn't see here because that's for guns. Then you have gun season. Then you have black powder, the primitive, and then the bow. But we're only going to allow bow in the city. So one of the tricks to that is even though we only going to allow bow, if you have, by law, if you're out in the woods, even if you're just with a bow, during like gun week, you still have to wear orange. You got to comply with state law. Yes, ma'am.
I came late because, just one comment, at the 6 o'clock meeting when you work it till 5 o'clock and you're not in the city, it's very hard to get here by 6.
Sure.
And I would appreciate if the council maybe thought in the future 6:30 would be enough time. But anyway, I did not hear whether or not you were going to allow hunters in the park, the city park.
You mean Eastlake Gardens?
Yes.
That was the proposal for 40 acres. You allow hunters back there.
And you are going to let the back.
Well, we haven't allowed any.
This meeting, we did this at the beginning of the meeting. This is an informational meeting only. We're not making any decisions tonight about whether it's going to occur.
That's fine, but I wondered whether if you made the decision, would the hunters be allowed to go in the park that abuts my property without my permission?
No.
Okay.
They would not shoot in the park.
Who said no?
It depends on where you're going in your yard. If it's in your yard, you can't come in your yard. But if we deem through the park that the park's going to be huntable, then they'll be in the park.
So if I take my grandson for a walk in the park or go sledding in the park or whatever, your hunters could be in there and I would not know.
I would think you would know that if we end up as a city agreeing on hunting, that you're going to know. We're not going to say they're going to be in the park. The park would be basically like in Menor, shut down. during specific times.
That's what I'm asking. You will shut the parking lot so the residents know hunters are in there with their ladders and all?
Absolutely.
So that there would be no danger to people just walking in the park?
We hope that people would understand that the park is closed.
We would know.
So missing enough of the meetings and
Well,
not
what I'm
realize
saying-
about it has to be from the stand.
It would have to be in the stand, it would have to be, obviously we would say, I mean, and again, this is the beginning stages. City council would have to agree, it's not my decision as the mayor, this is going to go on. 7 of them would have to agree, we were going to have more meetings, this is only the beginning. So, and as I said in the meeting before, we're going to have people for it in this crowd, we may people have it against in this crowd, and if we continue and once it gets to the newspaper, we may have more and more people.
Not saying I'm for or against, I'm saying put that on your thoughts when you think of it, as far as the park abuts my property, and we have small children.
Are you concerned about your children getting shot by an arrow?
I'm concerned if I'm in the park, which we go in and walk with the children, and it butts right up on my property off the valley view. If I'm in there, how do I know hunters have not already started hunting? Because in other cities, when they have gone into areas, they have roped off and put your yellow tags and have put out notices that the public land is being culled and that they weren't, you're not there. When they did Metro Parks, Karma, Lyndhurst, all of those. So I'm asking, when you consider your hunting, that you make sure that that park is, a big notice comes out to the residents that butt up against it, or even all of Eastlake, because kids go down there constantly, that there will be bow and arrow hunting during that time.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. I mean, if you have a program like this in the city, like it has to revolve around the city. So, closing a park, other cities have done that. It's really not a difficult task to do from a law enforcement standpoint. So, or streets and parks standpoint, it's not hard to close a park. You know, I mean, but yeah, as far as putting on notices, that's not unreasonable at all, isn't it?
Are there specific hours during the day when?
Yes.
Usually it's in the morning?
Well, deer are most mobile because the way their vision is, they see best at sunrise and sundown. That's most of the time when hunters are out. But the time frames are set forth not by the weather station, it's set by Woodlawn has their own charts that is in their backpack. But most hunters are usually out latest. Most are usually packing it by what, 9 o'clock? 9 a.m.
Yeah, I always thought it was a morning thing.
Yeah, it's
usually
usually,
5
right.
o'clock, you're done by 9.
Yeah.
So it would be, and again, very specific hours. If the city were to do this, those would be things that we would be looking for.
Sure.
Specific locations, every safety precaution that we could imagine taken. And again, just a window in the day when the hunting would occur. Is there another question for Mr. Goldberg?
Yes, sir.
Any talk of coordinating with Lake Metro Parks?
Lake Metro Parks, I didn't even feel this one.
I met with the city of Willoughby, I've met with the city of Mentor so far, the city of Willoughby, Mayor Candace and I met with the Metro Parks. We were trying obviously to get some funding from the Metro Parks and obviously that did not happen. So Mary Anderson and I talked about the other ends of the park are obviously by the Reeves Road and off of Rural Road. So those are some of the other parks we looked at. I didn't talk to Mary Anderson about this meeting. I was going to touch base with him. You know, our next step is next week he's going to meet with our police chief to make sure that this is something that's viable for us to do before we present. Just so everyone understands, the administration usually sends to council what our thoughts are on something and what we'd like to be done, and then they talk again. This is one of many meetings that will happen because when we do this, we want to make sure our residents are on board, and 2, that we're doing everything, and it will be all about the safety and about the correct part of them. You know, I was a councilman 9 years before the mayor, and this has been an issue we've talked about for many years, and we, you know, again, we never moved on it because of our resources. Mr. Vogler lives in our area and he wants to take a big part of trying to get this done. So again, this is probably one of the reasons that we're even having this meeting, because we just don't have the resources through the police department to do this. So again, that's why I want to sit with the police chief to make sure they're okay with me.
How many deer do you have to kill before you feel it's enough in the city?
Well, that's a fine question. First of all, you have to understand that once again, we're trying to work with nature, right? As conservationists and hunter, that's keystone to what every hunter and fisherman does. So Ohio has what we call bag limits. You're only allowed to get so many deer per county per year. Ohio has determined that the healthy herd in the state of Ohio is between 500 and 750,000 deer. So we have, say, chronic waste disease that was trying to come into Ohio from Pennsylvania, those bordering counties, we up that. We made it very clear to hunters, listen, you see a deer, you put it down, you don't want that noise in Ohio. In fact, one farmer purchased several deer from Pennsylvania, brought them to his deer farm in Ohio. ODNR found out about it. They went in, tested all the deer. They all came back and Ohio still said, we're still right here. We're putting down all your deer. Because we want that disease in Ohio. So as far as how many deer do you put down in Eastlake? Well, I think we need to appreciate the fact that this is not going to be resolved in 1 year. And even when you bring the numbers down to, lack of a better term, an acceptable level, if you don't continue maintaining the herd, you're going to be back to the problem we have. So don't expect this problem to go away anytime soon. It's not an issue of extinguishing the herd, it's an issue of trying to have a healthy balance with the herd. So hopefully we see some numbers, some viable numbers that aren't chicken scratch for the first couple of years. And then we get it down to where we consider acceptable or healthy. And you're going to see you'll see in the bar graph, you see the first year all these hunters are going to want to shut these because the word's on the street, right? Okay. Well, after 2 years, the number of hunters that are applying will diminish dramatically because it's not a target-rich environment anymore. Additionally, you've got to figure all these other cities are now starting these programs too. So all these hardcore hunters are not traveling very far. They're going to go to the local city. So I suspect what's going to happen is after 2 to 3 years, we'll get some numbers. We'll see what the harvest looks like. We'll see what the numbers on the trail cameras look like. And we'll make an assessment at that time. Can I tell you right here now, hey, if we harvest 1,200 deer, we're good? I can't say that. I can't tell you what is the appropriate number. It's going to be a learning curve.
Can we bring down the herd and allow more or better control as far as green space so that the deer that do survive have somewhere to go?
Oh, the deer are going to have any problem.
Then why are we here?
Yeah, no. I mean, we've increased the city's population leaps and bounds.
Of deer or humans?
Humans.
Well, yeah, we keep running into a lot of concrete everywhere. Right. As far as the deer, they're drowsy animals. If they don't have the resources here, let's suppose we eradicated all deer in Lake County. Not one single deer was allowed back in Lake County. Statewide health of the herd, we'd still be fine in Ohio. We would still be good in Ohio. And so that's why that 500, 750,000 deer that we got in Ohio, we keep that at the top level. In case there is a disease that moves in, we can survive that storm.
So we moved to Eastlake 43 years ago so that we could enjoy the wooded area, the animals that are here. We've had turkey, we've had deer, we've had owls, pheasant, all sorts of animals.
Even bald eagle.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in the last 20 years, that area that we were seeing all those animals in is gone.
You mean it was developed?
Yep.
It's not that deer aren't there.
No.
There's houses there now.
Yep.
Right. So once again, we're invading their space. They're not invading parks, we're invading theirs.
Right.
We need like metro parks to buy property in the communities like Eastlake, Willoughby, instead of buying up all the Leroy.
Yeah. So what I would say is once again, it's about a healthy interaction
Well,
between us
that's,
and
what
nature.
I was saying is, okay, we're gonna go with this controlled herd thing.
Uh-huh.
Is the city going to cooperate and give us designated green areas instead of permits to build houses?
I mean, if you've noticed and if you've lived here, there really isn't been any developments in our city besides 94 is the newest one from Garrett's Cove, but other than that, from our last 5-10 years, there's really no more areas to build any houses here. So from our perspective, there isn't any land to build new developments. That's why you're seeing the Manors and the Willoughbys in Lost Nation just like Mary Anderson, they're building another 144 houses on the corner of Lost Nation where the golf course is in the next couple of years. We don't have that.
I know, we were the recipient of Tamarack.
Okay.
We had rats for 4 years just roaming the streets
In Eastlake.
because they tore up all the area. So the rats came into our garages and our houses. They had nowhere else to go. So we had a horrendous problem with it.
We have a gentleman who has a
Is there, you're very, knowledgeable on, is there a kind of a rule of thumb formula about, if you have, let's say in the city you have a total of 500 acres that's green, wooded type area, what size herd is proper for that? Is there like 2 deer per acre, or 1 deer per 10 acres?
Right, there's a formula that's a wooded lot. I mean, we get completely undeveloped, that's how we get 500, 700,000 a year. I don't know exactly, I don't recall what that ratio is, but that ratio is null and void in the city. Okay, they don't have what's considered acceptable for a city. They do have a number that's acceptable for car versus deer accidents in the city, which if you ask ODNR, they would say 170 deer car versus accidents. We're okay with that.
The one thing I think
Unless you want those 170, you might disagree.
also important to consider, you mentioned how they usually have twins.
Sure.
Every, not childbearing, but every
year.
fertile female will usually have 2 a year.
Sometimes 3, sometimes 1.
Okay. And at what age are they capable of starting to reproduce?
Usually 2 years.
2 years. So when you think about that, with only accidents thinning out the herd.
Correct. Usually the deer have 2 per litter because 1 is usually killed. We're not the red. Statistically, studies have shown that one of the offspring is usually killed within 48 hours by a predator. So that's.
But I doubt they have an Eastlake.
Well, I don't see too many coyotes. Or I mean, I don't see too many black bear. I don't see too many bobcats. So that's why.
But it's important to realize the population doesn't go up like so.
It goes up the
exponentially.
Without a predator, it goes skyrockets. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
I just have to say, where we live on the lake, we have as many, and I'm not exaggerating, 20 deer I've counted that have run through. Right now, we have probably 9, and I've got a film of them. Mm-hmm. They're there, and there was 2 bucks in the fall.
Near each other?
Yeah.
Really?
And we had about 5. This was a daily thing. This is daily all the time. You wake up with it, go to bed with it. They're at our windows because we have long.
They're domesticated, right?
Yeah,
right.
And it started with one neighbor, 10, 12 years ago, feeding the one cute deer that had the 2. And now we've got the herd, and don't they kind of stay together? They keep.
The only way you can prevent, a long-term prevention is you have to eradicate an entire clan at once.
We've got the clan.
You have to. That's the only way you can get rid of for a period of time. But deer migrate. In poor weather, they go to about a 10-mile circumference. In good weather, about 20 miles a day. And then every now and then there's a fluke where deer will go 150 miles, and we don't know why. We believe it's because it's a way to spread the genetic code. So every now and then they'll put a collar on some deer, end up in New York, and at the end of the mating season will be right back in Lake County. How is that? It's just a hiccup in nature, how they designed to develop the spread of the genetics.
But we have,
The only way you can do it is to a time frame that would be noticeable to nullify or entire claim, which is, that's.
well, I know we have the clan, we have an empty lot, next to us, that's where they are.
That's what they sure.
And they've eaten everything, and what we do, as you said, the animal, we have, you name it, everything. It's my friends laugh because I take films all the time. I mean, we have turkeys and we,
sure.
it's like a nature preserve where we are, but on the lake.
I'll start here. There's a gentleman who's been waiting for a question.
Yes, sir.
My question kind of relates to what she's talking about. I understand, thinning the herd in wooded areas and park areas, but then there's a lot of deer in residential areas that aren't suitable for hunting areas.
Correct.
If we thin the populations in those wooded areas,
Decrease the vacuum.
will they go to that area?
That's their natural part. They usually come out of the woods to feed on their hostas through the middle of the night, right? So if you create a vacuum in that portion where they naturally are, they will retreat to that vacuum, right?
How do they do
This is their tree.
They're very comfortable where they are.
Well,
It's 10 to 12 of them behind
Right,
our
it's kind of
house.
like winter. Winter's been very successful with their efforts. But if they don't continue that effort, you create a vacuum just in winter. And give them no more than 3 years and they're gonna have problems. This is their it's like fishing. If you fish with a 15-pound line, that deer sees the line, the fish sees the line. I mean, you're in their space. This is what they do. This is a matter of survival.
All we've been seeing over the past 10 years or so is the numbers increasing every year.
Yeah.
There's at least 2 to 4 that stay every year. So we're up to like 12 deer that are pretty regular around our house 24/7. And they're in the front window, they're in the back window. The dogs are going they walk right up to they have no fear.
No.
Your daughter has to walk and look around the house to make sure they're not running so she can go get the bus. It's just.
How many deer can a hunter take? Like this year, could a hunter take?
A hunter without exemption.
Will this give the hunter exemption to take more?
We can apply for it. Ordinance has a tendency to say, yeah, go ahead. Right? If you fill out the paperwork properly, Ordinance usually says, yeah, go ahead and knock yourself out.
What is it without the permit, though?
4.
Was it 4?
Well, 4 last year. Next
Change
year,
it.
yeah, change it year because we want to keep that number. It's got to be a little bit flexible to ensure the health of the herd. So, what they changed, they used to have like zones, A, B, and C zone, and we could, if you were willing to travel, you could get up to 18 deer in 1 year. What they found is that around 67% of the hunters get 1 or 2 deer. Then you have another 20 or 30%, 28% get 3 to 4 year, and the rest of the hunters stay out until February 7th, 5:02 p.m. Those are the guys that ended up getting like 7, 8, 9 year. So they changed it a little bit to allow the hunters that spend a lot of time out in the woods not to be forced them to try and sense animal. So that's why we changed it for county. Right? So last year you were allowed 4 in Lake County, 4 in Asheville, 4 in Geauga. You could not exceed, I want to say it was 6 statewide. You can only allowed to get 1 buck. In Ohio, you're allowed to get 1 buck.
And
or antler, excuse me, antler. I shouldn't say buck. I should say antler.
And if this permit, like, if people are so upset about hunting in city property or like public property, could you also look at the ordinance is just allowing in bigger people? Like I have a bigger lot,
okay.
And if, I see nothing wrong with.
How big should you start?
Actually, I have 12 acres.
Okay, so you can feasibly fit comfortably.
Probably
6 hunters.
Yeah, but I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, that's going to be a.
But you could.
Yeah. So if you had, say, 3 acres.
My neighbor would be
more,
mad at me.
Yeah,
Oh, they're.
If you have 3 acres or more continuously, that's what I would say would be. And that's reasonable cities are no.
But that's an option, maybe.
Correct.
Well, let me ask the people in the room, from what you've heard, is it something you feel the city should try to move forward on, or that we should do that, or?
I think baby.
Good, I mean, I was hearing that.
I think baby steps, though.
Yeah, I think
he makes a good point too. The way Eastlake, the land we have, and just by the, just hearing people talk, nobody wants. It's just too big of kind of what he's kind of talking about. I mean, you start off with baby steps, I mean, there's people, property owners that have, acreage, and I'm sure they got plenty of friends, they'll do that. But the city's problem is to see them. I talked to game wardens. The game wardens are more than happy to give out unlimited, just about nuisance permits. Everybody's aware there's way too many deer. The problem is the discharging of the firearms in the city limits. So what I'd like to see across the council, along with what he said, is just to see how that can get formed and start off slowly.
We started doing our homework in the beginning, and I said we've pulled all these ordinances from the surrounding cities. In the November ballot, there were 6 that went to the ballot. Unless council, I don't think we'll go to the ballot. We can change the ordinance in the house. But we're going to do all our homework off here again. I met with Mentor. After he sits down with the chief, we can have the Metro Parks come in there again, and we're going to make it safe for people. They're worried about it, but we're going to take care of the issue. And again, it's not going to go away.
And to be like more, as far as monies, the city, we've got a lot of money to spend, going that route. But starting off slow, just starting with that steps, when you get started knocking some of these deer down, they don't have a lot of natural predators, and those they get bred. That pretty much within 9 months they're getting bred again. That's why they're overpopulated.
Just as a council representative, listening to the presentation for the first time and having read some of the legislation, I have a lot of questions that still need to be answered. How are we going to manage this? Who's going to be issuing the permits? How are the police departments going to enforce this? If we're going to be giving venison away, is it going to be donated to people? If these people need food, they're probably not going to have money to pay for the butchering. How much what do we charge for?
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Can some of the permit money be used to assist these people who benefit from harvesting of the deer? So, I have a lot of questions. This is our first meeting. And I even said to John when the mayor asked are people for this or not, and there was this general consensus that you were, I was surprised because I was expecting that nobody would be, I just lingers. So.
Well, lingers is a whole different thing. Most of the people in this room has probably called my office I've shared my calls to you guys. I don't give you every call because you got every call.
So we still have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of questions that I have that aren't going to be answered tonight, and they don't need to be answered tonight. But when you have your 7 elected officials working in a group together with a professional, with a chief of police, these are the questions that we're going to answer and we're going to figure out. And if there's a way that it's going to benefit the community from a nature perspective and can benefit people at a lower income earning spectrum.
One thing I'd like the city council to enact, immediately is an ordinance to prevent feeding of deer in nuisance animals. No, we don't.
We sent over, I sent it to the chief of the range, but we have to tweak it a little.
So that ordinance needs to be changed and written into by far way before this goes. There's no reason why that cannot be enacted and why we don't have a feeding of nuisance animals or ordinance.
Sir, hold on. Gentleman right here.
Okay, can't feed the deer. In other words, we can't feed the birds either.
No, they're not nuisance animals.
Have you ever seen the deer eat?
Oh, yeah, they demolish.
They go to the bird feeders first thing.
There's a difference between dumping a whole bag of corn in your driveway.
Well, true.
Instead of dumping in a
But
bird feeder.
an ordinance is an ordinance. If a deer's there eating out of your bird feeder and the officers see it, you violated the ordinance.
Sir, I think what it revolves around is intent. If your intent is to feed the birds and the deer are resourceful, that's one issue. If you have somebody laying down corn in their backyard to feed the deer, it shows level of culpable mental state. It shows the level of intent. I think that's what ordinance revolves around.
Well, we'll have to see that.
Gentleman in the front row. Hold on.
Yes, sir.
What areas Eastlake do you have in mind that are wooded enough that you can hunt?
The Eastlake Gardens is about 40 acres. That's
What else?
Well, that's the only thing that publicly I thought was viable from Google Earth. You have private property, more than one parcel of private property, that it was continuous with another piece of property, some that are standing on that would be considered feasible, considered acceptable.
There's not all that much room there.
Well, that's true, so we have to work with what we have.
I'm talking about private property too.
Correct. But once again, we have to work with what we have.
The other thing is the whole conversation's been about killing deer. Is there no alternative that's feasible?
Well, someone spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on birth control, which has been completely fruitless. And the problem is it only works one year. So as far as ODNR stance, they even said the most viable consideration is hunting. That's the state of Ohio's position. So unless, and I want to say they spent close to over $1 million on birth control for the deer. So I would say, feed the wild animals, plant deer spotting, have a controlled hunt. You can't have one that solve everything. You have to look at it in a multifaceted approach to try to address the issue.
Top gentleman right here in the third row.
Yes, sir.
That guy in the back here. You're next.
I just had one question. I did talk to ODR, I talked to the mayor, I talked to Jim. We live on the lake, which he said, and we have 20 deer all the time. I own an acre and a half. Neighbor owns 3 acres. The other neighbor owns an acre and a half. So you would have to have all 3 of us sign.
No. You want at least 3 acres. So you get one personal property that was 3 acres in suitable. Then that would be enough. If you had up to 5 parcels of property, you would want at least 3 acres. So suppose you had one person with 1.25 acres, one person with 0.75, and one person with 1.25, you did 3 acres. As long as they're next to each other, and all 3 say yes, all the hunters have.
That was my question.
Right.
All 3 would have to agree.
If you have at least 3 acres.
That's what I meant.
Right.
Okay, we would have like 5 and a half.
Well, then you need more.
I've never known deer. They swim in the lake.
Yeah, they swim. They can swim up to 7 miles.
Yeah, I've gone down, watched them swim in the lake.
Yeah, in fact, Clinton Bay has 11 deer, because a woman hit a deer, she killed a deer, she picked up the fawn, she got on a ferry, brought it home, bottle fed, and when it was in season, a buck from the land smelled the scent, and that buck swam 6.75 miles. And the deer can only swim 7 miles. So that's how motivated that when they're in season, how it can become. So they have 11 deer. They're all cats.
Todd, we have a gentleman in the back right
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Oh, okay, take care of it. Okay, then we had another question right here.
Yeah, it just went. Not about the hunt time, but in your presentation, you raised your eyes a little bit when you said you were surprised at the number of deer that hunters called in to Menor to find.
Define my surprise?
The wounded deer.
I wasn't surprised by the number of wounded deer. Maybe I misspoke. I was surprised by the number of deer that Menor recovered for the hunters. In other words, the deer was harvested, it ran off property that the hunter was allowed on. Once you get to that property line, you're done as a hunter. You can't go any farther. So if that deer travels and you can't track it, you're done because you can't trespass. So if that deer falls in someone's backyard or falls in somebody's tree lawn, and the person comes up and says, I got a dead deer here, the officer will come out, read the permit number on the arrow, call the hunter, and say, come pick up your deer. That's what I was surprised by. How many was it? I don't know the exact number. I'm sure, but I can research it. I can let you know.
Apparently, it's a large number.
I was surprised because one of my best friends is a cop, and he's like, you'd be real surprised at how many deer we recovered. Because to me, when I discharge that arrow, that deer goes a couple yards and we're done. So I was real surprised that even we had deer we don't even property.
We're from hunting family.
Okay.
Used to hunt all the time.
Okay.
I never bow hunted.
Okay.
I didn't consider myself proficient enough.
All right.
I couldn't put 3 arrows inside a paper coffee cup at 45 yards in less than 45 seconds.
Okay.
So That's not proficient enough for me.
Okay.
I've been out in the woods. I've hunted many states, even out west. I've seen too many deer that have been brought down by gun hunters that had arrow wounds in them.
Okay.
Gangrene.
Okay.
Now, I'm talking mule deer, elk,
Sure.
whitetail, and it bothers you. As
Well,
a hunter.
that's considered conservation, as am I. You don't want to hurt anything, you want to
No.
harvest it. Right. So, can that happen? Yes, it can happen. Mistakes happen. It does happen. But if you have a certified archer, you have all these rules and regulations in place, I think you negotiate and mitigate that to the minimal standard reasonable that you can achieve. Can I guarantee you it's not going to happen?
No, you can't.
No, I can't. I'm not about to say that to you. But if you have these rules and regulations in place, you certainly do minimize that opportunity. In my opinion.
And one of the, I think we talked, oh, sorry.
Yes, sir.
And regulations.
None.
You didn't mention that one.
All letters were volunteer.
Yeah, we discussed the campaign process.
Hang on, I know he didn't mention it, I know he told me.
Zero cost.
Zero cost.
Same sort of thing.
Okay, we have a couple more questions over here.
I think if you check the metro parks even, they would like a reduction in.
Yeah, and I'll talk
We've
to
talked to
Anderson
them.
again, because we talked about the rural road area, when I sat down with Mayor, and we sat down with the metro parks. So I'll talk to
Well, metro parks, they don't want any hunting.
I'll talk to Mayor Anderson again, because we were gonna try to do an aerial, but we were trying to get an aerial picture, they were like $5,000.
Yeah.
He's like,
Metro Parks did one about 7 years ago and determined that there's 15 times too many deer for the.
yeah, that's the percentage.
It's a change about 7-8 years ago, and it's changed the environment.
Sure.
Because they eat a lot of one type, eliminate species. There's too many.
Just on what he said, my property is in Surfside, small little lot.
Right.
But the woods there, it's between Reeves Road and Valley View Drive. And I've lived there 45 years, so I watched the whole thing evolve. I have home movies of my kids that were in the woods a few feet, and on cue they were supposed to come running out of the brush, right? They just appeared, right? And that's when they were little kids. Now they're adults. And that same spot that I took the deal, that took the movie, that you couldn't see 20 feet into the woods for the brush and the natural foliage, you can now stand at the end of that woods and look 500 feet. And if there was a dog, a beagle, walking 500 feet away, summer or winter, you would see that. And you know what? There's huge maple trees, huge oak trees, and there should be thousands of baby saplings at the foot of each one of these trees. I defy anybody to find one 3-inch tall oak tree or maple tree in that whole woods behind me. The health of that forest is being totally decimated.
Okay, Tom, we're going to field one more question. I believe the lady right over here. You have your hand up?
Well, I don't know what to ask anymore now, but what did I want to say? I lost it.
Well, I think she wanted to ask if us and 2 of our neighbors combined our properties and have 3 acres.
Yes.
Then that would qualify.
Yeah. Well, we have 3 acres, but no more than 5 parcels of property.
Because that's the only way that we can get rid of our deer then, because we have like anywhere from 10 to 12 at any given time. They don't come out just the morning or the night, they're out in the middle of the day, or it's just all day.
Well, no, I mean, if you even get a 0.5 acres, and none of the neighbors want to participate, in time, you'll still be less deer on your property if you're harvesting them from other parcels of property.
I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
We've never even made a report about how many deer we have in and out of our yard all day long. And I'm wondering if there's other people who've never made a report. And we've lived in Eastlake for 24 years now, and we only see the numbers getting bigger. And we have a deer too that's missing half of a leg, which we've never reported.
Well, 3-legged deer are not uncommon.
Okay.
That's not uncommon. There's more than one, I guarantee you, there's more than one three-legged deer within there.
Well, I'm just saying,
Well,
I don't know how many deer we actually really have, but we've never made like a formal report of any kind. What if you're trying to figure out how many numbers and where, and this, what if you made some kind of a plea out to the residents, you know, what's going on in your yard? Write me a letter, shoot me an email. I've never made a report. I mean, I talked to you, a week or two ago? And I just happened to mention it to Dennis and, you know, but I've never made any kind of report. So nobody really even knows about our deer, except.
Yeah, I think on the whole, the city, we're aware of the deer, and again, you know, and I'm glad he stepped up, and hoping this is something we can do, because again, I want to put any more work on our chief, so, again, after their meeting next week, I'll sit down with the chief afterwards and go to our next step with council. And like I said, we're trying to look at all the ordinances and try to do what's best for the city.
I'm worried about the danger. I love animals of every kind, but the deer are really becoming dangerous. And that's what's scary. I mean, they will walk right up to you. And I have a Doberman. She's a big, heavy dog, and they don't care. They don't care. They'll kick her. They don't care. So it's just getting really dangerous. And I do worry about the ticks and all the disease and.
Wait, the turkeys are gonna be a pain in the butt in a few years. What? They're known for that.
With feeding. Like some of the game wardens and the city got.
Yeah, I met with the Metro Parks.
That's what Metro Parks.
So we're open through top and maybe.
Yeah, because they know they're more than happy. Everybody knows there's definitely overpopulation.
Okay, Todd, we're going to conclude this meeting. I think it's for information only. Are you going to be here in case anybody else has any individual questions? Council will probably take this into committee, and our next committee meeting will review all the everything we took on tonight. So I'm just going to conclude this meeting, and we'll adjourn it at 7:21. Thank you, everyone.